Now, we're still looking at various techniques for integrating full screen images into your slide backgrounds. And while this gradient mask effect creates a great look, let's look at an even more powerful effect, and that's using a vector mask. Now, turn the visibility of this gradient option layer off and then make another copy of our white layer by Option or Alt dragging it down onto the new layer icon. Then let's name this layer Vector Mask. Click OK and drag the vector mask layer just above your plant background layer. And thus far, all of the layer masks that we've created have been raster-based layer masks. And if you remember back to our discussion of raster versus vector images back in Chapter 2, we said that raster images were pixel-based and vector-based images were defined by lines or vectors that connect between control points, and those lines have properties such as stroke and fill. Now, a great advantage of vector-based shapes, especially in this case, is that those control points are editable. Now, Photoshop has a special type of layer mask specifically for vector-based shapes, and you create one by holding down the Command or Control key on your keyboard and then clicking on the layer mask icon. This will add a new vector mask. Now, at first glance, it doesn't look like anything different has happened, but if you hover your mouse over that new mask that was created, you can see your tooltip pops up and says that this is a vector mask. If you hover over top of the gradient mask that we created, you can see that that's a normal layer mask. Okay, we need to draw a vector-based shape on this mask to cover over the area of our image where our text appears. And to do that, we're going to use the pen tool. Now, we haven't seen the pen tool before, but it works very similar to the polygonal lasso tool that we used in an earlier movie. You click to set a point, then drag to another location and click to set another point, and a line or vector is drawn between those 2 points. Move to another location, click to add another point, then move up to the top, click to add a point, and then move back to your first point, and your cursor should get the Close a Path circle icon, and then click to close that shape. Now open your Properties panel and make sure that you're on the mask by clicking on this icon here. Now adjusting the feather option will cause the fill of that vector shape that we just drew to soften and spread both inside and outside of the boundary of the line, thus creating a soft gradient. Now I found for this image a feather value of about 150 seems to create a nice effect. If that was all there was to this, you may be thinking, well, that's not all that different from the gradient effect that we just created in the last movie. But remember that vector shapes have editable control points. Let's grab our Direct Selection tool, which is also known as the white arrow tool. It's located here underneath the black arrow tool. Then click on the path to make sure that it's selected. Then click and drag each of those control points independently to adjust them and create exactly the shape of gradient that you're interested in. Now, I found that adjusting my control point so that the gradient generally follows the angle created by the text and the title here at the top seems to look the best. Now, since the feathering effect happens both inside and outside of the shape boundary, you may also want to adjust these 2 outer points on the other side to either create a vignette look or to reduce that look. I'll move my points a little further out away from those corners to reduce the look of the vignette. You can now once again adjust the overall opacity of this entire layer to really dial this effect in. I think an opacity value of about 60 seems to work the best. I'll click to deselect, and there you have it, multiple ways to modify a background image to better integrate with your slides.